Coming up tonight on Game All Night, Daryl Andrews from Maple Games. This Week and Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Well, hello and welcome to another Game All Night. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Mr. Daryl Andrews, a rather prolific designer and now founder of Maple Games, but he'll be on in a second. He's warming up in the green room. You know, he's combing his beard. I hear that's a big thing that you do when you have a big beard, right, Dan?
There's maintenance required.
There is. It's not just like let it go and it doesn't work by itself.
That's an option. You've got choices. That's a way one can go.
All right, fair enough. Well, sir, what did you pour me tonight? Because this is a mystery.
Yeah, I think we've actually managed to split a bottle here. We're both drinking the same beer. It's from Maine Brewing, Maine Beer Company. This is their Woods and Waters IPA. It is a beer they brewed to commemorate a memorial, a Woods and Waters memorial that was set up there in Maine. So it's a dry hopped IPA, a bunch of hops in there. You'll get a good solid shot of Simcoe and then some a little bit of a dry hopped flavor on top of that. So it's pretty yummy.
Yeah, it's not quite as juicy as I expect from a New England IPA, but it's pretty nice. It's a little more easy to drink, I think.
Yeah, it's not in that heady topper mold. It's their own thing.
That's all right. I can only usually handle one of those in a night anyway, so
I can dig it.
It's a little too much. And you're drinking the same thing.
Yeah. This is a larger bottle, so we both managed to get in on that action.
Outstanding.
Yes,
so, well, let me bring on our guest then, and see if Mr. Daryl Andrews, are you drinking anything there, sir?
Nothing too fancy. I didn't come equipped with any, good beers. I just have I don't know if you're sponsored by Coke or anything, but
yeah, I kind of wish. And get that big Coke money. Wait a sec, that doesn't sound right.
The fancy one. Stevia in it.
Oh, it's the Green Life. Interesting. Well, I have if you're down here, I have some maple liqueur in honor of you. So, kind of have the Canadian shelf going on today.
I appreciate that.
Canadian maple syrup, but it's close, right?
I don't know that close, but
geographically close. How's that?
Sure, I'll go there.
So, sir, welcome to the show. You and I met very briefly at Origins. It was kind of a tag and run, but you had a very busy Origins this year, let alone Gen Con, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been eventful this last year, taking on. I'm still wearing the hat of doing freelance design, but recently started Maple Games, and so trying to juggle both at conventions is a new challenge.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I don't think you get enough credit for everything you've done. It's interesting because I went on BGG, and I know you from Segrada and, some of the more recent things you've been working on and posting about and, the boats and I know this and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I look and I'm like, my God, you've been doing this for a while and a lot of it.
Yeah, I've been trying to hustle. It takes a few years for a game to come out. So even getting to see games now meant all the work that I did a few years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what made you say I want to design my own? I don't want to mess with anybody when I do some games.
Yeah, well, early on I got involved with board game design because I met some game designers and they were real nice to me. Brought me in the fold, people like Jay and Sen, the Bamboozle brothers.
Okay.
And a few other Canadian designers. They kind of just grouped me in on their playtest nights. And that got me hooked on designing. And then of recently, the last few years, I got some opportunities to do development work for publishers like IDW or Bezier Games. And because of those experiences, I got to work on other people's designs. I really enjoyed that as well. So Maple for me is my chance to do, work on other people's games while also, casting a vision with the games and kind of dabbling with them. And then I'm still doing work with other publishers, so trying to do both.
Interesting. So it's not like I'm just gonna do everything in house and keep it all to myself. You still want to work with other people and do other games for other publishers, right?
Yeah, the goal is actually, for the most part, to try to hunt down games that I love from other designers and
Okay.
work on, get my chance to put my fingerprints on them on the development side, but still pitch my games to other publishers. I'm not opposed to doing, a game with Maple, but probably for this first year, our lineup's now pretty set, and I didn't seem to make the cut. So
You have very high standards, sir, I guess.
yeah, and to be honest, like it's pretty exciting because some of the games we've signed are by designers that are heroes of mine, people that inspire
Oh, wow.
me, and new designers that I don't think anyone knows about. So it's kind of a real mixture of skill and experience.
So, what would you say goes into kind of opening your own company? I mean, obviously, you've been on the outside, and you're able to bring a lot of knowledge to it. But what did it take, like on a personal level, to say, all right, let's get this thing started and let's see what it can do?
Yeah, I mean, it really takes a lot of hands. At the end of the day, I've just leaned on a lot of good friends and a lot of people that have mentored or helped me with figuring things out. I mean, everything from figuring out how to make a corporation and all the legal work of that was way above my pay grade and experience.
Right.
To figuring out logistics, figuring out printers. I mean, I've gotten a little bit of experience working with a few companies. So companies like I already mentioned, Bezier, for example. I got to work on the Ultimate Werewolf Legacy game.
Okay.
And that experience, I got to work with Panda as a manufacturer, and they were incredible to work with. And that I got to learn juggling kind of the project. So I got to deal with the artist directly and ask for art assets and direct that. I got to worry about the production quality, got to work with their in-house graphic designers. I got to work with, they have an incredible network of playtesters in San Francisco alone. They have like a meetup group of 900 plus
Oh, wow.
players.
Wow.
So so it's just like a great chance to feel what it was like to be a project leader and juggle all those things. And that helped, but still doing it all and is a whole new challenge. It just like multiplies.
Well, it's funny because it's all the things you didn't have to do before, you're now exclusively doing in your own company.
Now, the one thing that I will say, kind of our secret, or at least my secret, that I've been able to manage and makes us Maple a little different than a total startup.
Okay.
Is we're almost more like a studio. We have a lot of people in place to help kind of not offload, but take the majority of the responsibility. So, for instance, we have partners with, for instance, I have a CEO, and our CEO started Matago. So,
oh, wow.
So, like, he knows what he's doing pretty well. And
I'd say he has a good idea.
Yeah. Like, a ton of my favorite games are made by Matago. So, just the chance to work with Arnaud and have his expertise on developing games, but also, like, he's a genius on how to produce games. We have a great relationship with Surf and Meeple, so they're helping with logistics and production. We have, I have a couple people helping on the marketing side. So I have Jess Davis, and then also on top of that, we have Ian Birdsale helping us with a lot of the marketing side. And then I haven't even mentioned, but Peter Woken is my creative director and co-founder, and he has done, in my opinion, like the easiest way I say it is if you looked at your game shelf, there's a pretty good chance that Peter actually has done the graphic design or art for the most of your games compared to any other artist. He's so under the radar, but he's done everything from Dead of Winter to Zaya the Shift System to Dinosaur Island to Segrada. That's how we met. He's done a ton of work, and so he knows the backside when it comes to how to make a game beautiful and well produced.
Yeah, because it's funny. We had Ryan Goldsberry on, and talking to a pure artist, but the one who wears many hats. You don't realize like the graphic designer is the one who pulls it all together.
Oh yeah,
Right? Like he's the one who makes the icons work, make sure they make sense, puts them in a place that makes sense.
Yep.
Putting an icon in the middle of a card that you're going to hold and only see a corner
Can't
of.
find it.
Yeah, it's amazing how much work they really do. And as you say, it goes really kind of unsung. So I think they're the next name we're going to see on a box in a very big way, I would say.
Yeah, I truly believe that. And to be honest, I've already been contacted by about 6 major publishers
Right?
talking about how dare you steal Peter from us. He was the go-to for
Right.
a ton of publishers, and he was a freelancer, and I scooped him off the free agent market. So,
Well, I'm sure he appreciates the steady projects and steady workflow as well.
So I do have to inject the bad news in all of this,
And that
which
is,
is that I think once you hit president and founder, you have to abandon the phrase "above my pay grade."
I think
fair.
that's a valid point. It is. Unless he has a board. If you have a board and a chairman, I could let you go. But-
I actually do have a board, and I'm on that. I am the chair.
Well, you're your own boss, so you only have yourself to blame, sir.
Yeah. True.
That's awesome. So you started this, you're still doing your own thing. You talked about Segrada. I did have a couple questions because, I can imagine that the core of Segrada was, I don't want to say simple because I think it's one of those games that's deceptively simple, but hard to actually pull it all together, right? But the end
Sure.
vision and the look and the feel, you brought it up. So how did that come together? I have to know that I feel like there's a story because it works too well to be chance.
Yeah, I mean, it is a story that really redefined my life, and I'm pretty thankful for it. Adrian and we've worked on a ton of designs together, but that one was real special right from the get-go. I mean, when we had designed it, we designed it pretty fast, the core of the game, but it felt very mechanical. At the time, we did not know what the theme was,
Right.
but we had come up with some of the core mechanics. It was actually based off of a really boring kind of math thing. It's called the 5-color theorem, and you see it on things like postal maps or zip code maps, I guess I should say. And where you look where there's no 2 colors next to each other. They do it a lot for mapping.
Makes
where
sense.
you can differentiate and never kind of duplicate the same color. So we were playing around with that and with dice because we love dice. And we had something we knew just because even we took it to a local game cafe and played it around with some people, and people were taking pictures of it. We just didn't know what it was.
Right.
But we knew there was something there. We put it on the shelf, and then I actually went on an incredible trip with my wife where I just mooched off of her journey because she got a research grant to see her job in 3 different countries, and so she picked, obviously,
Right.
Italy, Spain, and Switzerland. Which
That's tough.
it was rough. We were rough. And, so we went to those 3 countries, and we took a little extra vacation time in between. So we were gone for about 6 weeks.
Nice.
And on the very last day of the entire trip, we went to the Sagrada Familia. And I was just kind of, like when you're on a trip and you're starting to think about going back home, and so work's starting to bleed into your head, but you're also trying to be present. I'm trying to soak it in, but I'm also thinking about stuff. And I look up at one of the windows, and I just saw dice. Boom. It was so clear to me. I came right back. I was like, I got it, Adrian. We finished the rest in a day. Boom. It was just like, yep, this is the game. We started showing it to people, and people loved it. And we actually pitched it to 6 publishers before Floodgate.
Really?
And every one of them said, I love it. I'll be a customer, but it's going to be too expensive to make, so I'm out.
Now, what do you think pushed it over? Was it the dice? Was it the double A boards that Stronghold should have done a long time ago? You know, what was it that kind of pushed it over? You think then?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it was the dice. There's a lot of dice and the weight, and we were adamant about like we want them to be transparent, we want them to be beautiful. That's all part of the experience. We actually didn't come up with a 3-layered board. We just had one that had cutouts, and you just slid the card under.
Right.
And they went over the top. Floodgate Games just like crushed it with the 3-layer. We were super excited about that.
No, it was gorgeous.
And then the art, and we wanted it pretty, but that was like next level for us. And I know for a fact that people would like give that game a chance because it's so pretty.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's up against when it came out. You literally went head to head with Roleplayer at the time. So you're kind of talking about two very similar roll dice, place them, try to complete rows and make, finish the puzzle style. And it's funny how decisive the camps were, because you had Team Segrada and you had like Team Roleplayer, and like, I don't need to own both. And I'm like, well, I own both because, Roleplayer's the one I play with my nerdy friends, and Sagrada's the one I play with everybody else, because it's so pretty that like, no, and it was the dice and it was the theme, and it's like, see, the theme can carry through even on something that isn't thematic by nature, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And it matters. I think it really matters. And I thought that was outstanding. I thought there had to be something in there, of course. But now, of course, the stained glass theme is out there, and it's not just a side bit in fresco. And now it's been scooped up and taken. Any angry emails with Plan B, or do I need to drive up to Emerson's house and just kind of hit him with a stick? I mean, what do we got to do here?
I'll say this: I love Emerson, so I'm a big Emerson fan. I can say that on the record.
Yeah.
My mom taught me to, if I don't have something nice to say, not say anything at all.
Fair enough. So, I wouldn't expect you to. I'm not that show. I'm not Maury, but I just kind of.
No, I'm not worried.
I will feel frustrated for you, because I'm like.
I'll give this little juicy nugget though. One of the companies that did pass on Sagrada was Sophie herself from Plan B.
Got it. So take that little anger I feel, maybe add a little more. All right. See, I'm still bitter about the whole Sentry Golem never coming out thing. So I'm still hurting Unit over that. So.
I understand that frustration.
So it's a little like, like I didn't know, like I had to buy it at Gen Con last year because I'm never going to see it again, and like, oh, we're not going to release it, and then I'm like, what?
Let's talk though too about how high the bar was set here, in terms of like the aesthetic package. Like, you've already gushed about how beautiful Sagrada is, but that's now, anyone who's like taking a direct aim at like, hey, this is our twist on it, has to come up against that bar and try to produce something that beautiful.
Yeah, and then
I'm glad everyone's trying to make pretty and more beautiful games. That helps the whole hobby.
It does. It does. And you know what? How many people are going to say, I got to try it and figure out which one's best? And then we all know the answer they're going to come away with. So
I like to think so.
Well, it's definitely one that sees pretty much regular play around here. I love it, and it's great. Now, I also saw that you came out with, just at Gen Con, so pretty recently to this recording, you came out with the Oregon Trail game, which I have not had a chance to play. I've seen it in the wild. But I was on my business trip, so I didn't buy it. But please tell me that it's not this little rinky-dinky card game, and that it's going to give me all the feels that I want. Please tell me.
I'll happily tell you. So
okay.
the backstory was that I was very critical of the card game.
Oh yeah.
And I love the video game. And I understand, there are people that have fun with that card game, but especially the gamer community, I feel like we were like expecting more, and it was a disappointment for us. And so they let me work on for a year a game that had all the things we've learned from modern board games and make it a really good game while still using a license that we love. And so, there's still dysentery. There's still like breaking the wagon. There's still that tough decision of like, I hunted and got all this meat. Do I leave some behind, or do I make some room in my wagon?
Right.
Do I kick someone out of my wagon for that extra space?
You have tombstones.
Tombstones, and not just any tombstones, because that would be basic. No. I love dice, so I decided you use the life tracker of a die for each family member, but your life starts at 5, and you work your way down, and then you get buried 6 feet under.
Nice.
So that's 6. So.
You brought it full circle there with the dice. I like it. So are we going to see like other adaptations of these early like 4-color Hercules EGA graphic card games coming? Like are we going to see like Leather Goddesses of Phobos? Are we going to see?
There's a lot of good fodder out there. I don't know. For me, it was a one-time opportunity with Pressman Goliath games. They're putting out slowly a few games that I think are really connecting with the gamer crowd.
Okay.
I almost got to work on, but I didn't. But this is another amazing license. But they did MacGyver.
Right. The escape room one, right?
Yeah. So I almost got to work on that, but in the juggle, I passed on that project. But again, like anytime some cool license comes around, and if I have an opportunity to work on it, I'm going to jump all over it because I'm a big fan of things in that era, or even after. At IDW, I got to work on a few cool licenses, and I just signed, but I can't talk about it. I hate when guests do this on shows. But I just signed a deal with Mondo, and we're doing a really cool game that hopefully will be out next year at Gen Con.
Awesome. Well, I do have a few questions about licensing, property, and stuff, but I think that I'm going to save them for after our break. So
okay,
I think we're going to take a quick pause, and we're going to be right back after these incredible words from somebody more interesting than me.
Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
A marine biologist developed a race of genetically engineered dolphins that could live forever if they were fed a steady diet of seagulls. One day, his supply of birds ran out, so he had to go out and trap some more. On the way back, he spied 2 lions asleep on the road. Afraid to wake them, he gingerly stepped over them. Immediately, he was arrested and charged with transporting gulls across the sedate lions for immortal porpoises.
And welcome back with me again, Mr. Daryl Andrews of Maple.games, Segrada fames, and lots of games. I tell you, like I said, very prolific. Go look at the bios sometime on Board Game Geek. And chances are you've probably played 2 to 3 of your games that you didn't even realize because you just grabbed them and played them. Right? Think that?
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. One of those that kind of I didn't know about until just recently was Out of Time. I didn't realize that you did the redo of the Back to the Future and you made the game of it. So
yes.
That had to be pretty cool, right? Like you were talking about awesome properties before the break. I have to imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Back to the Future was dream come true license for me to get to work on. It was really an interesting experience too, because the goal was to make something that anyone could play, like a non-gamer.
Right.
So the goal is to make like a mass-friendly game that, kind of connects with, hey, I love dice, so obviously I'm thinking of like Yahtzee or different kind of go-to dice games that everyone plays, while still connecting it to the brand and honoring something that I love. I got to give a shout out. I saw you put the picture up. I got to meet Michael J. Fox just this a couple months ago, and it was cool. Like he even knew of the game, which blew my mind, and was just like next level. Like, ooh, I got to like just a little tiny bit get to be part of the Back to the Future world. So
That's pretty cool. So how did that come about?
Yeah, well, the neat part was I knew both the designers of the Back to the Future game that IDW was creating. It was Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback. They did a time travel game, and so I contacted saying like, hey, I know this game's in the works, but is there any thoughts of doing more? And the cool part was I just kind of asked at the right time, pitched the right idea, and they said, hey, well, if you want to try to make it, make something, and then we'll pitch it internally. So I made something real fast, and it started to click really well. And it's funny because I have this cool connection with GrandCon. GrandCon was a convention I pitched and got Segrada signed, but also the very first place that I started testing at a time, the Back to the Future dice game, was at GrandCon. And so I tested it with a few people to make sure people were having fun and the idea made sense. And then I submitted it, and that was my first game with IDW was actually the dice game Out of Time, and then I ended up doing a ton of games with them, and then they even hired me to help do development for them. So it was a pretty significant help in kind of helping me learn behind the scenes on game design and learn a lot about working with licenses and how complicated that can be.
Right. So fast forward, you have the game out, and you get to meet Michael J. Fox. So what was that like? Because I have to admit, like, I don't read many biographies of people. Like, that's just not... I read to escape and things, but I tore through both of his books. Like, he's one of those... He's one of our heroes from our childhood, and he's dealing with what he is, and it's an incredible story, and it's really fascinating. So how did that happen, that you came to be standing next to it?
So I went to the Toronto Fan Expo. It's a kind of like a Comic-Con. I think it's one of the biggest. And I had never paid for or done like the autograph thing. Right. But the minute I heard he was going to be there, I was like, well, no time like the present. You already alluded to, he's having a tough battle, and I don't know how long he's going to be around. He's someone that I consider a personal hero, and I know a lot of us do. Yeah. He's incredibly generous and kind, and is the type of person that, I wanted an excuse to get to see, and just kind of, I really believe, you surround yourself with really cool people, and this was just a chance to go see him. I ended up getting tickets to hear a Q&A panel. Okay. With a bunch of the cast for Back to the Future. And then what happened was I got to go for the signing the next day. So I had listened to him, and it was incredible. He is so witty and so fast with his ideas. He would say jokes that people would start talking, and then midway through would start laughing because they caught the joke. Like he was just on it. And it was cool. So I had left copies of the game for each of the cast that night, and then I went the next day, and I actually was asking if I could bring one in to get signed, but there's a very strict kind of process, right, where you basically just kind of like step in, you basically can say a sentence, then smile, and boom, you're gone. Right. And you kind of get funneled through these like hallways and stuff, and it was fascinating because I asked if I could get this signed, and they said no. I was like, okay, so you leave it on the table, and then you see people coming out of the spot that you're about to go in. It's all like hang, backgrounds are up to kind of make it private and make a good photo. Right. But right. Every person without fail that came out was teary-eyed. Yeah. Because you just feel like it just connects with something important. Yeah. And then, so I'm already getting like emotional before I go in. And then, oh man, just before I go in, a dude comes out that has policies and was like, so happy, and I was like, you just made me lose it. So I'm going in cheering, and all I can get out is, hey, I made the Back to the Future dice game. And he goes, oh cool, I got that last night. And like, all right, smile. And I'm like, smile, and boom, I'm the next guy crying out, coming out the door. So it was awesome.
I can't imagine, we think it's awkward, right? Because it's like, we're having this little brush. We worked up for it. We're emotionally like, unprepared for whatever it's going to be, right? Whether it's a hero, whether it's, somebody famous, like, and all of a sudden we're thrust in front of a camera. It's a very awkward thing, but I can't imagine what it's like for them.
Oh, it's got to be crazy.
Right? Because there's part of you that's like, and I imagine while he might be very tired at the end, I imagine that he wants to be able to give more,
For sure.
And you're just not able to in those constraints.
No, well, this was a fascinating thing, and this is one thing that I thought was pretty neat about the community of Back to the Future fans. There were people in line that have been to tons of signings,
right?
And they were warning the different people in the line, like, don't be upset if the photo he doesn't smile. When it's about to take the photo, he puts all his energy into not shaking.
Right.
So if that means he's like focused, like, know that he's trying.
Yeah.
And so even that, like, just knowing the context that you're going in and everyone wanting to just keep like the good vibes going and be positive, it was just like a really cool thing to be part of. And I was really proud of that. And it made me even more proud to be a little associated with Back to the Future. It's just like such an incredible movie series and just really defines kind of our childhoods.
Yeah, it really does. I think, I can't imagine that there's any kid our age who doesn't know what a DeLorean is and doesn't know what 88 miles an hour means. I mean, come on. Yeah. Like, we know. It's a thing, and you're right. I would be the exact same way. I actually think I probably would have lost it altogether. I don't know if I could have held it together, because I'm even getting teary hearing you talk about it.
Yeah,
right now.
There was a lot of emotions spilling out with people. There was a person beside me that got married with like a DeLorean, and they were getting their photos signed, and just it was cool. It was really cool.
It's funny because I'm sure there you kind of have both sides of the coin, right? You have the fandom for Michael J. Fox, and then for the property itself.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that there was I don't want to say you can't really be one without the other. Don't get me wrong, sure. But Michael J. Fox, the hero, versus the slapstick kid running around on the hoverboard that we still don't have. But
still don't really have. We're still waiting for true versions of it. But it's funny, like you said, everyone's so into it. I had a bag full of Back to the Future dice out of times. Okay. And in the line, like the minute I pulled one out, people were like, "Oh, can I buy that? Can I buy that?" Like, it's so funny how hardcore the crowd was. And I was like, "Oh, I only have 5. I need 4." And someone's like, $20 here. And they handed me $20. I was like, "Well, you're the first one. Here you go." I was working the line even.
Yeah, exactly. So it's but that's got to be pretty awesome. Sometimes when you meet your heroes, it's not what you expect, and sometimes you're even more than you expect. It's awesome when that happens.
Totally.
Cool. So all right. So put that under your belt. Like, is trying to meet Leah Thompson next on the list, or are we going to go full Howard the Duck now? Like, what's after that? Like, what can top that?
Yeah. Oh, it's weird. Okay. So I didn't think I could top it. I used to say that there's only 2 licenses I would sell my soul for, and that was Star Wars, obviously.
Sure.
And then Transformers, but original, not like Michael Bay.
Okay.
And I, those 2, but there was one that I didn't realize I wasn't answering, and that's the one I just signed with Mondo. So
I look forward to seeing what it is. And I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, let's see, I haven't heard Buckaroo Banzai. I haven't.
I have sworn secrecy, so.
Remo Williams. The adventure begun, but it never went further. So, we have to find out what happened there. So, there's a lot of.
I think you're picking some of some of these might not be that expensive. Some of these might not be as hard to land as Back to the Future and Remo Williams. I'm right there with you, but like this.
Buckaroo Banzai, come on.
And actually, that's you're hitting me right in the heart there. That's my my favorite movie of the era.
Absolutely, it was That was just classic Weller. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
So good.
But so that sounds really fun. So whereabouts in Canada are you exactly?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Toronto, a city called Waterloo. We're about an hour away, and
All right.
we're kind of the equivalent of a kind of a tech city, university city. If anyone remembers BlackBerry phones,
Yep.
they came from my city, and so all that intelligence. Then when those died out, they all started new businesses.
Well, the BlackBerry was kind of like, my pop-up from like the 50s, because like the furniture kind of stopped getting purchased in 1962 and just kind of stayed there. And I think BlackBerry is kind of the same way with the technology. It just kind of went so far and said, we're good. We're just going to own this. And then...
All right, so I mean, the camera might not be able to catch it, but some of us refuse to let go and are still rocking a BlackBerry in 2018. So,
Did you have the BlackBerry pad?
Physical keyboards. It's a hard thing to find in this era. So
It is. Well, that's what helped support my region for a very long time.
There's nothing wrong with that, Dan. It's like, at least it has full color screen now.
yeah, I appreciate that it's a no judgment zone, that you guys are willing to.
I tell you what, though, like I had the Bold, and I loved that thing. Like that thing was
Bold was a
great.
phone.
The scroll wheel and everything.
The Queen of England, when she came to visit Canada, she made sure she came to Waterloo because she loved her BlackBerry so much.
Yeah, I mean there was nothing like it with the way the inbox worked, and it was very, very, very intuitive. I think people were addicted to a BlackBerry long before screens, because I remember I had a Curve, then I got the first iPhone, and then I gave it up and went back to the Bold because like we had to jailbreak that iPhone. You couldn't do anything with it. It was like this is just an iPod Touch. That's really all this is. It's like, and that can make calls. It was pointless. And then you're kind of like, oh, okay, they figured it out. Okay, it got better. So jump back on the bandwagon later. But no, I get it. It's get off my lawn, kids. That's what it is, all over again. So what is something that you consider quintessentially Canadian? The Mackenzie brothers don't count because we know they are. They're in the Canadian Hall of Fame, and they should be.
Yeah.
What is something that you would tell, somebody who's not from there, you must experience these couple things? I had Pep on, but he's on an island somewhere, and I don't. He's kind of weird coming from that East Coast side.
Those East Coasters are weird.
Yeah, and they talk French every now and then. It's just it's very it gets strange.
It gets real strange. I don't know French. So, my grade 9 French teacher said to me, "If she passes me, do I promise to just not talk French anymore?"
There you go.
I made that.
That's a good promise to make.
Yeah, I was in. Why couldn't we have said this at the beginning of the year? But either way, what is truly Canadian? There's the obvious like maple syrup, ketchup chips.
Okay.
What else is Canadian? What we call Smarties.
They're Spree down here, aren't they?
No, like Smarties are what you call rockets, I think. Maybe? No, we call them rockets. What you call Smarties.
Okay.
But Smarties are some piece of chocolate.
How about like poutine? Where does that rate on the scale?
Poutine is essential. I pretty much don't let any American not have a poutine within the first 48 hours.
That's fair.
Some Canadian beer, because we like our beer.
Absolutely. Moosehead, gotta have it.
Beer and poutine is pretty essential. Those are the kind of the important stuff. And hockey.
That's enough for me to book a trip right there. By the way, beer and poutine and catch a hockey game. I'm sold.
That sounds like a great night. I don't know if I'd want to have any Smarties at the end of it or rockets at the end of that, but that sounds like a
maple syrup something.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it's good on pretty much everything. I haven't found many things I don't like it on. Let's be honest.
Yeah. You put it in there like a boozy coffee or something you need.
So good. I actually had a place up in Vermont makes it's a cream maple liqueur that is just it's amazing. It's just like, Bailey's, suck it. This is that's what you want in a coffee. Yeah. So good. Absolutely. Well, Daryl, this has been a ton of fun. I've enjoyed hanging out with you, getting to know you a little bit better. Dan's kind of get. I think so. I hope I can talk you into sticking around to play a little game. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I like games.
Dan's gonna set something up that I can lose, because that's what I do, a lot.
Fair.
Much like my actual gaming life, I might add. It's nothing new.
That is objective one when I'm designing the game for the evening.
Well, yeah.
That sounds like a perfect objective.
You know, if anybody's watching at home and think I actually throw a game, wow, are they mistaken? The games kind of throw themselves, believe me. I played, my wife and I just got Heaven and Ale. And, and I converted my wife to gaming about 3 years ago. You know, she goes out on game days and all this. It's an awesome story I've told many times. And so we break it out and we play it. I played it once on my birthday and then I bought it. And then we played it 3 times and I haven't won yet. I created a monster. What can I say? Well, awesome, sir. Let's take a quick break. Let's refill any beverages we may need. And then let's see what Mr. Dan has in store for us. What do you say, Dan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, take us away. GAN presents Dramatic Rules Theater.
Place the ruler and the speed bonus token next to the clapper meter. Acrobat meeples, guest star meeples, and accessories of balloons, beans, barrels, elephants, and horses form a reserve of components available to all players. Stack the 3 score sheets at the place indicated by the board in order 3, then 2, then 1. The last player to have seen a circus act becomes the first player for the first act and takes the first player token. And note, male pronouns have been used for simplicity and readability.
It's game time!
And welcome back. Still here with Daryl. He decided to stick around and play this thing we're going to call a game. It might be an activity to some, but we're going to call it a game because there's points and I lose. So I think that's what Webster says, right, Dan?
Well, this one's going to be a co-op game, so
okay.
So you're not going down alone. You're gonna take someone down with you if indeed you do lose.
All right, that's fair. So I'm good at playing the. Usually I'm good at playing the beta gamer where everybody else just tells me what to do.
All right, so
Why are you not the trader?
I'm usually that too, but.
All right.
What do you have in store, sir?
So something we've done before on the show where I will provide the seed of an idea for a game, a theme basically, and I would like you guys to riff back and forth and try to add a little flesh to it, come up with an idea, a game concept to build around that theme.
Okay.
Would it be a dice game? Would it be a worker placement game? You know, what sort of mechanics is it going to have in order to deliver on that theme? And as you know, we have here someone who has delivered a ton of cool themed games, you know, based on previously existing IPs and turned them into games that fit perfectly. I think we've got an excellent chance. The themes today are all going to be Michael J. Fox properties.
I like this. Playing to your audience again, Dan.
Indeed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to provide a Michael J. Fox movie or show, and I'd like you guys to come up with a theme, a game based on that movie or show, and then I'm going to score you on a Back to the Future scale.
Okay.
So the first thing we have to establish, I think, here is Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. What is the winning score? You know, does the scale? You know, I'm going to be honest. My inclination is in a straight order that the top of the highest score I can provide is a Back to the Future, and the lowest score would be a Back to the Future 3. But I'm willing to take input if not everyone's in alignment that's the sort order here.
So you're saying we're golfing it. The lower the better, because you're going to give us a 1, 2, or a 3.
Indeed.
Okay.
I'm saying 1 is the best of the
ranking. So
Yeah. I mean, there's part of me that, I can be more in the mood for 2, but
Sure.
usually one's just always going to hold up.
One's the masterpiece.
It is. It really is. I mean, it doesn't have like, Biff's Casino, but
No.
So I mean, maybe here's the lesson. Maybe there's no losing scores in this game. Everything is a victory. It's just
on some level,
you have a height to aspire to.
the problem is, though, if we design a game and its expansion and we do it at the same time, but release them 1 year apart,
Can you score a bonus of a Back to the Future 2 and
you
3
turn a 2 and 3 into a 1? Wow, that's really inside baseball there.
I leave you to play the system. But, okay, is
Fair
everyone
enough.
clear on what we're doing here?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Sounds good.
We're going to start off nice and easy, and we're going to start with a game based on the hit movie Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
So why
right.
don't you start us off, Daryl, and give us the basis, and maybe Chris can add some flesh to what you've come up with.
I mean, definitely we got to have like kind of a wolf no wolf mode in
Okay.
our game. Maybe there's like maybe we wink at basketball. We go with like a basketball board game with a teen wolf. I don't know. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I think I don't know. What if it's kind of a game where it all culminates at the basketball game? Like
Sure.
you're
I like
trying to
that.
progress through town and high school, and you have to beat different areas and then kind of end with the game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely let's focus maybe on like the high school lifestyle. Like trying to get through it.
80s
Deal
high
with,
school
like,
life.
Lame coach, picking up a girl, dealing with like the werewolf in you.
So-
Maybe there's like
So,
a dog
so I need to
whistle.
hear how this is Okay. So I've got it.
Right,
I like
right.
the idea.
Okay.
I've played the fairly a game based on the fairly awful Showtime series Spartacus.
Yep.
I think it was on Showtime that had a sort of an intrigue round, but each round ended with gladiatorial combat. So I like the idea that you're doing high school drama and then culminating in a big basketball showdown. It works for me, but I need to hear like how's that going to work? Like mechanically, how does that play?
He wants mechanics.
A little bit,
I kind of I don't want to say like getting a Dead of Winter vibe, but a little bit of me kind of wants to have areas that open up and you progress through. But in that, like,
Well, I think there should be like an anger track. So,
okay,
like, as you're getting more angry, the wolf might come out, and then maybe it's like dangerous, like it's a push your luck element. That if you
Okay.
go angry, you go like rage mode.
now are we trying to collect things to have for the final game? Like, are we trying to have
Yeah,
the jacket, trying to
Maybe a
collect
little
the
worker
shoes?
placement. You deal with cards coming at you.
Okay,
You got to deal with the different pressures that come along in the high school life.
right, which of course are going to add to the anger track.
So now I've got to hear
every
that.
time you've got kind of a crossroads moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking each area has its own deck that we're kind of doing Crossroads style, right? That you have to
Yep.
sift through the deck, and then we have to basically kind of draw out items, but it also might be events that kind of make us get angry and lose things. So we have to pass tests, and whether that's dice based, I guess, probably dice based with modifiers based on equipment you find. And you have to beat a certain area, collect certain. Yeah, and you have to beat a certain area and collect certain things before you can move on to the next level. And then at the end, you have to go for the big game, and it's just instead of players, there's cards, and you have to draw on decks on all the players.
So
Maybe the cards that you acquired, you then spend in that last round for like trying to score points in the big basketball
Right.
game.
Yeah, so it really could be just a card game, and I would even like standees because I think you could swap out Teen Wolf and regular Michael J. Pretty easily. You could have Dad in the picture if you wanted. I think that's the expansion would be the second half.
It could
Yeah.
even be like which side of the standee you're looking at, and you flip it on the other person, and now they have to deal with
Okay.
the rage, the werewolf.
So that's one player's experience. Here's the question. Do we break it and say that he has the whole troop of friends that are in the similar boat that kind of go through. So you have like a vampire friend and
no, every other role is lame. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to be Michael J.
yeah,
So
it's the Optimus Prime problem, right?
Yeah. I think it's just like everyone's playing Michael J. And then who's the best one?
Okay. Well, maybe it can play up to 4 players, but you're playing Michael J. Fox is freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and each of them come with their own handicaps because, like, you know, the senior doesn't get like the fresh points that the freshman's going to get for the first one showing up as the wolf. You know, it's kind of old hat by the time you're a senior. Everybody, he gets hairy every now and then. You know, and you kind of do that way, and you kind of play the age game with them. I don't know.
I like it. There's a lot of potential here now. The central, so we do have the central theme here, or the central conceit, the central gimmick to the whole thing is your anger track and the potential to go too high and wolf out. So what happens if you do indeed, you know, you hit the red eyes section of the track and you go wolf when you didn't want to do that? What's the
I think you have to like manage your cards, and if you don't have enough, you like run off, like you go wild. So you need to like temper yourself back down. You got to calm yourself down, or you're going to run off and lose the game. And so it's a game of like pushing your luck, gaining as many points as you want, but then calming yourself down enough, saving it for the big basketball game at the end.
Right, and I think it needs to be like fast enough where you don't. If you kind of die a few times, you kind of wolf out a few times, you don't really feel like you lost a huge amount of time waiting.
Yeah, right? Maybe it's like a missed a turn or something. You ran off and
you come back in and you have to start on the outside of the school with less gear or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for the knell of judgment here to hear what the
I'm almost kind of feeling it like a reverse Dead of Winter. Like instead of you trying to go out and gather things to save the fort, I think you're trying to come out and go in to take over, quote unquote, the fort, which is the basketball court. I'm kind of envisioning it that way, as a reverse funnel.
I like it.
I got it. So it's definitely a game I want to play. That might have been true from the start anyway, but I'm intrigued by the anger track. I like the idea of the twin elements of high school intrigue and then taking it to the basketball court to actually, you know, play out and see if everything you've earned can pay off. I do think there's an issue here with the who the players are part. I like the gimmick of the idea that you're Michael J. Fox across several years, but that's also a little weird, and it's hard to imagine how that plays out on the board and what's going on.
Well, he's a time traveler. Spaces, this is well established.
So I think there's some hiccups here that need to get worked out in development.
I was told solo games have a small market, so I had to design this for 2 to 4 players. So
I understand. You're right. Pure solo, you're limiting your sales potential.
And what are we gonna do? We got to just put like, okay, so you're all like juniors, but everybody has a different color vest. I mean, are we gonna do that? Like that's just roll and move territory there.
Now, I tell you, if you can put a little,
but alternate starting powers based on age. I'm just saying,
it's pretty sexy. It's pretty sexy. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I think there's a lot of cool things going on, and so I think what we're going to do is we're going to give this a Back to the Future 2. And I'm in and I'm backing it, but I think there's just a couple hiccups before we get to the pinnacle.
Some work to do.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do for the second game here, and Chris, maybe we can start this off with you. You can give us the basic seeds before we pitch it to Daryl to add a little flavor on top. We're gonna go one that is marketed more at the kids. You know, a property with maybe a little more age range appeal. Michael J. Fox was the voice acting lead in Disney's Atlantis, the Lost Empire, I want to say it was subtitled.
Wow.
But so, you know, not a traditional Michael J. Fox vehicle, but his character was really important to it. So if we had to do a game based, have you seen, might be a great place to start, Disney's Atlantis?
Probably a few times.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like, no, it's really weird because I hate to admit I was listening to Disney show tunes earlier today. Like, Aladdin's one of those properties we grew up with, right? But, Atlantis kind of came on a few years later and just kind of slipped out quietly. Yeah.
It kind of came out quietly, but it was catchy. It was good.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like in the shadow of a few movies, but
yeah,
I definitely remember it. I definitely remember like the quirky little like rat guy that like exploded everything. And
Yeah.
you might remember
Father
more than
Guido
me.
Sarducci as
Oh
a
my goodness!
dynamite expert in that.
Wow.
wow, good reference. Dang.
But yeah, so it had a cool visual style. So I think that there's a potential for an appealing package. But how's the game going to play? Chris, can you start us off with something?
Wow. So with Atlantis, I think you have two choices. I think you're either going to go with the Explorer theme, because I kind of feel like, this one was about like the journey to get there, the sub and all that, and then exploring, right? Yeah.
I think it's got to be about the exploration, the digging, the getting there,
right.
All the obstacles that you might face on the way.
Okay. So we're definitely like, and it starts like literally like on the shore on the boat, and then it's the whole journey to kind of almost little Nemo-esque, as it will, with the old looking sub and things. So I think that there's definitely multiple parts to the game.
Yeah, well, and we can definitely have asymmetrical characters with this. The cast is strong.
Right.
They got their crew, so everyone could play. It could be a co-op survival game. Everyone's got their different roles to manage.
Right, and I like the idea that this can move from like maybe it's a total of 2 boards that are 2-sided. So like you have one that starts out with the sub, and you have to meet X goals here. Yep, and then it flips on, and then you land, and then you have to explore. Yep, and they just keep. So you have like, it's not like Pandemic with a static board. It's actually 4 different boards, right?
4 boards. You don't know for sure which layer you're going to go through.
Right.
Variable.
Oh wow.
So I like that. So then there's so it's got the variable setup, and it can be reoriented so it causes different problems. So what are we thinking? I think worker placement gives us the most flexibility. Like,
I think so. I think you're running around different spots in the sub. And so maybe there's like a little sub going through this board.
Right.
And then there's like a worker placement board where we're moving all our characters around on the sub.
Right, and then that's the action selections, and then once we make landfall, or waterfall as it were, then we can kind of progress into the next stage of the game before we get to the final fight.
Yeah.
So each time the workers are going to have different workspaces available to them, and they can do different actions throughout. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there even anything? I don't know if I've played anything. A worker placement where at some point you lose access to all of the initial spots. Like there's either a phase change or a slow transition where they roll. I don't know if I've played one like that where the original spots just
made a
are
new
gone.
category.
Yeah, it's almost. I almost envision it being like a side scroller, because you work on one board, and then when you finally have everything done, then you move off that board, and then the next board takes over, and you work through this one, and you're progressing.
And like it affects like, as you take damage, like certain rooms of your sub get dented in, and you
absolutely
can't get into certain worker spots.
So what do we think is the main engine that's working against us in the game? Is it a deck of cards? Is it app based? I mean, what are we thinking?
I think it's decks, and it's different types of materials. So like if you crush through certain things, you pull from different decks.
Okay. So each area will have its own decks potentially. And then the threats will come from the decks as well. Do you think it's just going to be overwhelming systems and then overwhelming people?
They'll start climbing on you, the rate.
Right. So, okay. And then it just kind of keeps coming out. And if you get out of the sub in time, now do we have to leave the sub intact to get back to?
No, just get there.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it turns out Atlantis is a paradise, and in a pinch, I think Milo ends up staying, right? So I think you can, that can be a win condition: is you live forever in this,
right,
in this other world. I dig it. So I think I'm clear on, you need to advance through many stages, phases, in order to win. I think I'm a little fuzzy on your lose condition here. How is it?
You die along the way, and I think if you have less, as players die, there's less chance you're gonna make it.
Right. So is everybody controlling the group or Well, they're all controlling individual players.
Individual players, so there'll be elimination, but the whole thing would ramp up to an end really quickly once one person falls. Maybe the rest of you can win, but by the time two people die, you just can't handle anything, and everything crushes you.
Which is why most co-ops usually say if one person dies, your game's over.
Yeah,
but in this, you might be able to make a last ditch chance, so someone has a chance to get that sort of noble sacrifice.
It starts like a 3-turn timer or something. So you have one person's dead. You now have 3 turns left. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Never then outstays its welcome. You feel like a hero if you go down with it, to help the ship.
Right, because maybe you strategically stay behind to manage a system while everybody else gets off that
you
tile.
Might close one of those what do you call those things where you steal off a
yeah
bulkhead.
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, I like it.
I can dig it.
It's definitely different.
Yeah, and I will say, by the way, it's good that you're designing games. The premise of this whole exercise, Chris, is that we're designing games for Kickstarter, because I don't think there's a lot of concern for bill of materials in your designs. I think that when we talk about the cost of production, that's not something that's a first order concern when you're designing. I think
started at
Yeah, I mean, really, there's no game board. It's 4 punch boards. I mean, actually, we're being very frugal. It's decks of cards. I mean,
it was the multiple game boards that sounded like there was a lot of potential.
Oh, but that's punch board. I mean, come on.
Okay, it's fair. It's a fair point.
I mean, the miniature sub upgrade that you can get for the first stretch goal, and then the
3D room.
Right, 3D room tiles, for the $1 million breakpoint.
And in the Kickstarter era, it is less of a concern. You don't have to convince a publisher that this can be profitably printed. You just need to convince people that they'll spend $80 on this rather than $30.
Well, yeah, this is fair.
So I think that I like a lot of elements about this. Like I said, I don't think I've played a worker placement that. Where there's a whole transition and you're working with a whole different set of spaces. That sometimes happens naturally, where you choose later spaces just because they're better in a game. Like Kalis, you're often not going to play some of the early spaces anymore.
Right, because they're less powerful.
Right. But actually losing the board, I don't think I've encountered that. I'm maybe unconvinced about how worker placement and co-op work perfectly together, because usually there's a rivalrous nature to spaces that doesn't work as obviously in a co-op, but I'm willing to be convinced that this will work.
But it's not necessarily that it's the risk element, because you are working against the timer. So it's how can you do it most efficiently by sending the right people to do the right stuff at the right time.
Yeah. I'm intrigued in a bunch of levels. I think
if you lose spots because they're getting flooded or overrun in the process, as you're trying to go inwards, So I think you have to be super efficient. So I like it as a co-op. I don't think enough people do worker placement co-ops, honestly.
Yeah, well, look at this. This is forging new ground on a couple of levels and doing it all with a cool property. So I think we're giving this a Back to the Future 1. I think I'm in.
Wow.
I'm ready to back this game.
I will tell you, if you say minis or wrestling, he's usually in. Just so you know.
Save the power for next round.
That's cheating. I'm not even gonna give you the opening to suggest wrestling here. So I set the theme so that you guys can't cheat that way.
All right.
Okay. So for our final game, and we'll start us off with you again, Daryl. One that's one of the less maybe box office successful Michael J. Fox movies, but one that's near and dear to my heart. That I think is did something novel that you didn't see in a whole lot of movies of the era, but The Frighteners. Are you familiar with the flick?
No.
Okay. All right. So this could be. Well, maybe we can call an audible here and go in a different direction.
Describe it a little bit. Maybe they'll come back to me.
So The Frighteners had Michael J. Fox as a sort of a Ghostbuster type character, where he has the ability to So he's being called in on paranormal calls by folks who want to get rid of a haunting or something like that, and he's half a con man, half a charlatan, but also actually does have a legitimate ability to see into the spirit world and talk to spirits. But things take a turn for the worse when he's in a dramatic.
Horror films scare me too much, so.
But it's funny because we actually had this talk earlier. It's like this is one of those that kind of it's just like a notch above Ghostbusters, right? It's not scary, but there's enough stuff going on that it just kind of just messes with you a little bit. It's
I remember hearing about this. This was Peter Jackson, right?
I think it might have been.
Yeah, like maybe the earliest.
Yeah, I definitely remember hearing about it, but I don't think I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, so
definitely one to Netflix. I will tell you that.
So I have the highest recommendation for The Frighteners. It's something I haven't seen in a couple of years and probably need to rewatch. But what we'll do is we'll shelve that. We'll put that to the side
Ghostbusters, so you had me at Michael J.
It is a concept that works, but what we'll do, we'll go much easier, frankly. We'll go much more accessible here, and we'll go with Family Ties, the board game. Okay. Now, property everyone knows and loves, but yeah, maybe not an obvious, like, the last two games had a pretty obvious, like, denouement, pretty obvious, like, win condition. What are you going to do with something that's just a straight-up family sitcom?
Oh, my God.
That is super tough.
Wow.
Well, I mean, clearly we got different players because we can deal with all the Keatons and get the parents in.
Absolutely.
Get Jennifer and Mallory in, and yeah, so we got some diversity of characters. Something about managing a crazy household. Oh man, I feel like I'm going down like a horrible.
Yeah, it almost. I'm like getting a Flux vibe right now.
Abort.
Fast playing, constantly changing.
1980s horrible big Milton Bradley box.
Yeah. You got to play as the Republican.
Oh yeah.
I like the idea, by the way, of retro theming the presentation of it so that you actually you package it and sell it where it looks like an authentic mass market IP game from 1987.
I think I got the game idea.
Okay.
Asymmetrical conflict game with different win conditions. You got conservative Alex approach, like the hippie parent approach, and then just brainless Mallory approach. And you're all competing with each other to how you spend and make decisions as a household.
So almost like a I don't want to say a voting game, but it's like you're all trying to manipulate each other to almost
family politics.
Yeah, there you go. Family ties, politics. Right. So it's
the ties you make with each other to get your advantage.
Right. I'm almost thinking like Cosmic Encounter, but with family.
Yes.
And you're trying to each kind of get your agenda, but you will have to make temporary alliances in order to be able to achieve your goal.
Always vote one side or the other every time.
And then you had what was the crazy friend? Like he has to be one of the race. He has to be one of the people.
Yeah, every crazy character is a race because
they're all expansions, right?
Was it a scooter?
But they're also all cards, so you have to deal with them as they show up.
Right.
All of a sudden, the fourth child shows up. Andrew. Is it Andrew?
Yeah. Was it? Yeah, I think it was. The baby was Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Because Tina Yothers got too old.
Yes. Or things like that. And those are card effects. You can be like, nope. Andrew vetoes that.
And then what was the...
He's got to go feed Andrew.
Mallory's biker boyfriend.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the goal? So we're playing all these goals and we're negotiating. What's the end
I heard asymmetric win conditions. So Alex
So everybody has their own?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
heard.
so it could be like you're either like trying to win so many votes, or you're trying to make your sibling not win so many votes, or you
So,
want
okay.
everyone to have the same amount, like everyone.
So Alex is trying to like maybe convert his dad.
Yeah.
You know, his
Everyone
dad
of
is
his,
mom's
like,
trying to convert him. Yep.
Yeah.
To Republican Democrat. Mallory is just trying to make Alex make dumb
It's just
decisions.
like you gain a token from them.
Right.
So like your condition is like get 3 of Dad's tokens.
There you
If you're
go.
Alex. And so like you might be like, hey, give me one of your dad tokens, and I'll vote with you this time.
So what's going to make, like, I see this working once. How are you going to build in some variability to it? I mean, like, obviously you're going to have your own deck.
No one knows who is who
Okay.
until the reveal.
Oh, I didn't see that coming at all.
Okay.
Boom.
So
That's
you're
like
playing.
the win. Like you're like, oh, you didn't know this, but I'm Alex, and you just traded me that last dad token.
Okay, yeah, you'd have to do something like that. Otherwise, it would not have. Everybody would know what everybody's goals is by the second time you played.
Right.
There's really, you can only do like 1 or 2 goals. Like, I can't see, unless you did like a 5-way.
But you could do like first person to just like 7 of anyone's tokens.
Yeah,
versus,
that'll
like,
definitely
3.
have to be how we expand it, because it's going to be too limited initially. You know,
Yeah.
all the expansions. I think we can have like the Facts of Life expansion, where you know we bring them into the neighborhood and have a crossover.
See, I got it. You're going the wrong direction with this, Chris. You're tanking the
Right. No, you're not worried about this. This
You're
is
taking the
backroom
judges.
plans for the
I mean,
next
yeah, you're
iteration.
putting everything in.
Right?
Like who's the boss? Growing pain.
Silver Spoons.
Oh,
Double
yeah,
Dare.
so-
Remember?
Happy Days.
Well,
Double Dare's back, as a matter of fact.
not Double Dare. There was Double Trouble.
Cosby.
That was it. With the twin girls.
Yep.
I don't know that one.
Oh.
The
Man.
Elf. Have Elf.
Oh, Alf is its own game.
Home Improvement.
I think Alf would be like, you know, he'd be like, what are the Alvin and what's his face that come down in Ticket to Ride? I think he'd be like the one thing that just kind of ruins the game.
He's a Dexter toy.
Yeah.
Right.
He is. He's just the one thing that nothing else comes from that show but Alf, because no one remembers anybody else, and he just kind of runs around and wrecks the game for everybody.
And if he's in front of you, you can't win. Like, you can't reveal that you can't win.
That's
if you
because
do-
somebody else has the cat and he's distracted. I don't know how we got here, Dan. But I welcome you to the 80s sitcom collectible trading card game.
If we're honest, I have only myself to blame for this.
I thought for sure you were going to go with Secret of My Success. You know,
entirely off the rails, but
I thought Secret of My Success too. That's
yeah.
that'd be a great game.
you were bracing yourself for. Well,
The,
we'll have
the
to
second song to feature "Oh Yeah"
We'll have
by
to do a
Yellow.
bonus episode with where we come up with the game design for Secret of My Success, because we're committed here. So, so while I think that the maybe the real game that was designed here was the massive smash up with 80s game show or 80s sitcom. As all the various factions, I think the game that we did in fact design, the Family Ties board game, you know, I think there were a lot of cool seats. I like the asymmetric win conditions. I like the combination of that with, you know, hidden roles, and so you're moving factions along and you're trying to fool people about which faction you actually are. Where you've been playing like a Mallory all game, and then boom, you turn over that you're mom all along. I'm not sure it all hangs together. I don't know if I'm convinced if I'm watching the YouTube preview vids for the Kickstarter.
Well, that's what a
here.
developer's for, you know.
I'm a little concerned that maybe I'm waiting for that first round of reviews to come in before I I pick this up. So maybe I'm not backing it. You know, I'm not putting my money down at pledge time during the Kickstarter. So I think we're going to give this for full representation of our grading scale. We're going to give this one a Back to the Future 3, but there's a lot of potential there.
I hear what you're saying, and that's fair. That's fair, because that's a lot of properties to procure and have rights to, and
Yeah.
that's
Feel a
fair.
little confident.
So we're middling, I think, on the overall.
So I think you got one game across the finish line here. So one game made it to the peak of the hill with our Back to the Future one, and so I think you guys did a great job designing a trifecta of games on a challenging set of IPs.
Well, sir, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun for me. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Where can people find you if they're looking for you on the internet, Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, the main spots, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's Daryl M. Andrews, or the easy way to remember is Daryl Mandrews. You can also find the new thing going on with Maple if you just go to @maple.games, or you can find our website, which is just maple.games is our website. And yeah, keep an eye out on us. We'll be doing Kickstarters every couple months and have a pretty phenomenal lineup of games. So hopefully at least one of them connects with you.
Well, thanks for being on. Thank you all at home for watching. And be sure that you have something Canadian when you game all night. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our efforts at comedy and fun, please support us on Podpledge. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, don't forget to engage with us on Board Game Geek Guild 3134. You can also check us out on our website, gameallnightshow.com. And this show has been made possible through supporters like these. Game All Night is proud to be sponsored by Game Toppers. Check them out at GameToppersLLC.com, upgrading your gaming experience. Angry Octopus.